You know, when you read 127 books in a single year, it takes a lot to stand out from the rest of the pack. Well, I'm here to discuss one that certainly stood out to me. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I am Andrew, and today I am here to talk about my book of the year with you. But before we get to that, make sure you are liking and subscribing, hitting that bell notification so you can get regular updates for when I put out new content. I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Also make sure you're checking that description box down below for the link to the Wizardly Duo Discord, as well as information about my Patreon and links to all of my social media. After an intro like that, what book could I possibly be talking about? Well, if you've been following the channel recently, I can only be talking about Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. And guys, there's just so much to kind of unpack here on why this became my #1 book of the year. And frankly, I'm so excited because the second book is coming. This was originally meant to be a standalone, and we are getting a book number 2. The response was so overwhelmingly positive that the author was like, okay, I'll give you more of what you want. Now, before I get into the book, I do want to talk about the actual bind-up of the book. Now, if you saw on when I first, I mentioned this a little while ago, and I forget exactly what video it was in, but this naked hardcover is amazing, right? It's beautiful. It's also $32, and what you're getting for that $32 is just this naked hardcover. And I know it looks beautiful, but when I mentioned it last time, I even had somebody in my comments mention that this had happened to them. And when I went on Amazon, I saw pictures of people posting that this had happened to them. Guys, this is a display piece. And I don't know if it's intended to be that. It may be intended to be a physical reading copy. However, it is not designed that way. Whoever is printing these for the author, they are not doing her any favors. Guys, this is 800 pages, very heavy, thick paper, 800 pages, and all that is being supported is, if we see right there, I need to tell you this, it's being held, and you can see, this copy's never been read, it's pulling away already, and you may not think that that's a problem, but when your pages fall out and all you've got is a damaged book, that is an issue. So if you were going to read this, I highly recommend the ebook or the paperback, because the paperback has a glued binding where it's glued straight to the pages. Very readable copy. I will be picking up a paperback version. In fact, I wish the author would do a Kickstarter or something of that nature where we could get signed, leather bound, something amazing, and possibly go with a different binder. Like, I would sacrifice this naked hardcover for a better bound book that won't fall apart after 3 or 4 reads, because it may sound far-fetched, but even I'm just holding it, and you can see that the spine here is not the best. And so I would love a more traditionally bound book or a special edition hardcover that's even more mind-blowing than this. But if you're going to go for it, I would recommend that. The audiobook is okay. To my ear, it's got a weird audio thing, so I don't necessarily recommend it. The narrator gives a fantastic performance, but like, I've tried consuming this book multiple times, and you can even hear the spine creaking just by doing that. So that's very, very, very concerning, guys. That said, let's talk about the actual story itself. Public service announcement over! Guys, this follows Aram and Marcus, and really their friendship. But what makes this awesome is that where we start out in this very little village with an autistic boy who likes to tie knots. And where we end with, like, a dragon champion. And how we get there is so awesome, because Aram is an autistic main protagonist, and Marcus is just the guy who happened to stand up and say, enough is enough, quit picking on this kid. And what's so cool about that is that Aram feels different. He feels disconnected from the world. He feels like, you know, he is a burden upon society. And that's just not the case, because we find out that he is a special individual, and even though he constantly struggles with who he is not willing to let that stand in his way of standing up for what he believes in and for protecting what is most important to him, which is friendship. All Aram's ever wanted is a friend. So when a bard comes to town and he's looking for an apprentice, Aram's not really interested. Like, he's just like, God, that sounds terrible. I won't get to tie my knots. I would rather be a sailor. And everybody, all the boys in town are like, this is my one chance to get out of this mud hole. I can't wait to just go. And he's like, nah, I'm good. And through some circumstances, basically, they get apprenticed to this bard, who then proceeds to set them on this path of discovery to becoming a dragon mage, which is really, really interesting. Guys, I don't want to talk too spoilery here. I will say my main critiques here, other than the physical bind-up, is the fact that there are a couple pacing issues, specifically within the first 30% of the story. And this is where people may be like, why is Andrew saying this is his book of the year? A, I really identify with an autistic protagonist. And B, that last 70% just flew for me. It was so good. Just coming of age, great stuff. But the pacing issues is we get like time jumps, but we're not allowed to sit with the events that cause time jumps. At times, like, characters will come back after they could have had a perfectly good death off screen. They'll come back and then they'll just die 5 pages on screen later anyway. And it just felt like, why didn't you just let me have that off screen death? And for that reason, like, certain things like that, you're just like, okay, like, maybe this could just use a little bit of tweaking. And then it would be utter perfection. Now, this was intended to be a standalone, and I'm so glad it's not, because I believe the next book follows Marcus and Aram even further. But basically, Aram, of course, is an old, and which is just like, we're introduced to it as like the old blood, which the old were just kind of long-lived magic users and things of that nature. And the way the magic works is we've got true savant, which is also like another autistic term, which makes me super happy that, like, the true savants are, like, bred to be champions. And the champions bond like greater dragons, and the way that the magic system works is that the old can only use their magic in defense of somebody else. They cannot use it for their own means, which kind of felt kind of Wheel of Time-ish, with, like, the Aes Sedai, which was really cool. Another kind of personal tug for me. But when they become trained and become a champion, what ends up happening is that limitation is removed and their full power is unlocked. Because they have to earn the right to be a champion or die in the trials to become one. And what's really cool about that is, like, the way it works is he, like, can see threads, which is why knots are so important. Early in the book, we're introduced to the fact that Aram loves tying knots. He knows thousands different kinds of knots. And we find out that his obsession stems from the fact that he's a true savant and a magic user, which he doesn't understand. People just think this is a weird child, because the olds are mostly gone from the world. And so, like, you know, it's a crime to be of the old blood. A-U-L-D. And no, I know it sounds like I'm saying old kind of weird, but it's A-U-L-D, old blood. So it's really, really fascinating there. And then Marcus is what is known as a true impervious. And basically that means no magic, no direct magic can basically affect Marcus. So, like, if a magic user, like, throws magic at him, nothing's gonna happen. Or if a dragon breathes fire on Marcus, because a dragon is a magical entity, and the fire is therefore magical, the fire won't hurt him. However, the air heated around Marcus from magical fire will hurt Marcus. So his skin will start to crisp up if the surrounding temperature gets too hot. So as the air heats, then Marcus gets hurt. But the actual fire itself will not hurt Marcus. And that's really cool, because basically the way it works is you've got your champion and you've got your warden. And that's, of course, our Marcus and our Aram. Guys, this is very good. This is a very, very personal story on self-discovery and what it means to be a person of worth, and understanding your own self-worth and what you bring to the table. And the fact that you don't have to be like everybody else to be worthy of love, to be worthy of respect, to really feel worthy. You know what I mean? Like, and the fact to have our chosen one go through this is very, very, very cool. Overall, I really, really enjoy this book. I think it's a 5 out of 5 for me, but that I understand that is a very personal rating. Realistically, because of the character inconsistencies, like we have a villain, of course, who is a sorcerer, and the way that his sorcery works is he is a different kind of magic user than Aram is, to where like he consumes the magical abilities of others via a vial, a condensed essence, and he can use that, and then he can use magic. And so basically they go around finding people like Aram and so on and so forth, like harvesting their magic so that they can use magic. And this character like is kind of wishy-washy. His name is Sergen, and he's very wishy-washy in the beginning, so it's highly... he's like, I don't have any morals and stuff like that. But then, like, he shows a little bit of morals and then snatches them right back. So it's just kind of like, why? I didn't feel the need to, like, you know, dangle the loose fruit. It felt weird. So there are some character inconsistencies here. Again, I mentioned the pacing issues, where, like, we're not allowed to sit with the ramifications of those character decisions. And so it just feels like it's just trying to rush through and get to the good part, which is that latter 70%. I really love this. I'm gushing. I'm rambling. Please, 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 please read this book. Again, if you were going to pick this up, if you want a display piece, this is fine. If you want a reading physical piece, I recommend the paperback or the Kindle. Or the audio is perfectly serviceable. I just think there's a slight audio quality issue there. It sounds kind of deafened, almost like it's not crisp, clear audio. I don't know. That's me personally. Guys, I will always, always, always recommend this book to people. I just really, really enjoyed this experience. Great characters, great story, great flow once it finds its direction, and overall, fantastic. This was my book of the year for 2021. So, please, in the comments down below, let me know what you thought of Dragon Mage. Have I convinced you to read Dragon Mage? Let me know what copy of Dragon Mage you are going to get. Would you support a Kickstarter for a special leather-bound edition? Please, I would love to know. Maybe we can make it happen, Captain. That said, guys, till next time, peace out. Stay magical. Bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.